Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 16th Annual USC Suzanne Dworak-Peck School of Social Work Online Virtual Film Festival. It is truly an honor and a joy to be able to interact, to connect virtually during these most precarious of times. My name is Rafael Angulo, and it is truly for me a joy to be able to sort of a grand experiment in cinematic arts, and that's sort of being online live streaming, something that I have not done before. This is completely new to me, and yet I'm excited about the opportunities, and there will be some mistakes and some foibles, but I hope that you will forgive me those moments and allow the students' stories to speak for themselves. I have been a professor here at the USC School of Social Work for almost 19 years, and it has been a blessing and a joy to be able to teach this particular course, Social Work 687, for the past 16 years now, and to be able to really create, to have impact, to be able to have the capacity to create something from nothing, to bring some sense of order out of the chaos, and have social workers become storytellers, but not only storytellers, but also the capacity and the ability for them to be able to have impact. And so social workers are very much on the front line in terms of attempting to create change out of these sort of systems, these pathologies of power. Obviously, this year, something happened. This is very much sort of a symbol of what has happened, and that is COVID-19. And in mid-March, here at the University of Southern California and in the School of Social Work, all classes began to be online. And obviously, the governor of California, the mayor of Los Angeles, ordered stay at home. And so that meant that my students in this particular class had to adjust and to adapt. I sent them a long email basically canceling all production. That was very hard for many of them because they had worked very hard in terms of developing treatment and in pre-production and getting really excited about what they were going to create. And then, of course, this occurred, and it really was very challenging for them as well as for me as a professor in terms of, okay, so what is this going to look like now, sort of creating film in social isolation? And so we now sort of embark on this journey in which I ask them to be able to tell stories about COVID-19, about how we have had to adjust, how we have had to adapt to the changing nature of sort of the composition of society, social distancing, being at home for most of the day, being very careful about cleaning hands, shaking hands. So what does this do to the human person and our ability to adjust and respond to this? And so I asked the students to create stories. And that's what you're going to see this evening. You're going to be seeing stories from social work students who are trying to make sense of this pandemic, which has had a global reach, as well as had deeper reaches into family and into individuals. We're seeing high increases of mental challenges, mental illnesses. We're seeing higher incidences of intimate partner violence, child abuse. And so we were seeing a lot of sort of unique social problems associated with that. And the students stepped up their game and created these short documentaries. In the past, we've had about 7 documentaries each academic year, 21 students making documentaries about 15 minutes or shorter. This year, because they're in isolation, I'm having students create stories that are around 5 minutes, individual. We have two groups, one a group of 3 that created a documentary, and we have another group of 2 that created another documentary. And then the rest are individualized docs that have been created within their own home, sort of walking the streets, kind of getting a sense of what's happening in the community and in the particular state. Some of these stories are from Philadelphia. Others are from North Carolina. Many of them are here from Los Angeles, and so it is really an honor for me to be able to share with you these documentaries. And I will show them about 3 at a time, 3 separate documentaries at a time. I'll probably make some sort of mention of them afterwards, and then we'll go right into the documentary itself. We have a total of about 13 documentaries, and unfortunately, 3 of our students were not able, for filing reasons, meaning the file that they sent was not able to be recognized by the platform we are using. They did complete their documentary. They did a remarkable job, and I'm very proud of them, but I'm also feeling sad at heart that we're not able to share them, and I hope to find other ways to be able to do that. So without further ado, it is an honor and a privilege and a pleasure to begin the process of sharing the documentaries for Spring 2020, Media and Social Work Documentary Filmmaking as a Praxis for Social Justice.
Hey, I'm Max Deeb.
Hi, I'm Shafali Dutt.
And I'm Emily Harris. And we embarked on this documentary together, intending to tell a larger story about the juvenile justice system. But what we ended up with...
Hey, I'm Max Deeb.
Hi, I'm Shafali Dutt.
And I'm Emily Harris, and we embarked on this documentary together, intending to tell a larger story about the juvenile justice system. But what we ended up with was an impactful short film that tells the story of a young man named Abel. This is his story. I hope you enjoy.
To the times that I have run-ins with people, they assume that I'm just another street person that has no knowledge, but honestly, if it wasn't for me having no knowledge, I probably would have been deceased a long time ago. So it's something that I like a lot about myself. I actually went to route bunch. I went to route bunch for a year, and then I was trying to join a sport though, because route bunch didn't have like a football field or nothing. So that's the only reason I wanted to go to Santee. But you know, when I went to Santee, I got there a bit too late, and I was just close to more like people who were doing like bad stuff. So you feel me? I kind of got more into like bad influences around me, and yeah, like I just started getting into more bad habits. So it started more with me just getting kicked out of school, and I had more free time, and I was hanging around friends who had gang affiliations and associations. And there was a patrol car of a gang unit. They had pulled up quick. They had just flashed the light at me, and you know I had never had run-ins with the law, so I was kind of nervous. And when they started searching me and stuff, well, you know, I didn't know how to react properly. They asked me if I had gangbanged or I was on probation, which I didn't. That led towards them pushing me to a gate and picking me up from my legs. And then they picked me up from my legs and I fell face first in the concrete. Newton Police Department didn't handle it well. They over-exaggerated it because they had gone to my house with 8 patrol cars. People that live there aren't too familiar with the U.S. and the laws. So they panicked thinking it was just like something serious. And so they let them in without a warrant or without consent. They didn't have another charge to get on me because I guess they were trying to find a pistol or something. They did find like certain drawings of one of my friends' gang writings on my notebook, so they assumed that I was part of it. Ended up on gang file. Spent about 2 months there. And my dad used to get drunk, do drugs. Used to leave the house for days when I was young. He wouldn't come home. I just really didn't have a good role model. He wasn't there to be a father figure for me, obviously, so I turned to the streets. And I feel like that's a factor that's also one of the reasons why people turn into the streets, because people don't have somebody there to guide them right, and they go towards somebody that they look up to. And the people I was looking up to were people from the streets because they were getting money without jobs. And I couldn't work a job at the time since I was too young according to the system. And I was just trying to do what I had to do to get by any means, because my mom was barely able to provide enough for me and her. So I was getting tired of living like that. So I looked into illegal ways of making money. If I could change one thing about the system, it would be the type of rehabilitation they try to provide. They really don't try to help you out at all. They keep you in the room locked up, and most of the time that you're in there, you're mostly thinking about negative thoughts. You're claiming that it's supposed to help you think about your mistakes, but really what it's doing is just irritating you more. You're thinking about the problems in your life. When I got released, they told me like, "Oh, we'll see you back in 2 weeks." So it's like I feel that they want you to go back because they know that they're gonna get paid more off of it, and they also just don't expect you to like succeed. And it's crazy because in my opinion, I feel as instead of doing all that, they should try to provide resources that help somebody escape from the streets and stuff, or just to find a different hobby or something. Because there's a lot of talent out here in the city. It could be different. It's not always just music. It could be art, a sport, something else. And I feel as if instead of trying to embrace that, they're trying to take that away from you and embrace you to go towards something negative, so you could end up in the system again. And it's just a whole cycle. I was never too passionate about school. I hated school. I had made varsity basketball my freshman year, but I had got grade cut. That was like one of the factors that kind of made me start getting disinterested into school. During house arrest, I couldn't go out. I started going to tutoring more, and it was pretty cool at the time because throughout that year I had pretty good grades, so it was pretty cool. I had a pretty solid like relationship with my tutor, and it was something that was pretty special to me that year. Another person that's important to me, even though I have a lot of issues with, is my mother. Even though she gets mad and frustrated at the stuff that I do, sometimes she feels like giving up. She just hasn't. So there's a lot of situations when she could have just turned it back on. Even though we don't have like the best relationship, at the end of the day, when I'm doing anything, whether it's sacrificing sweat, blood, or tears, it's for my mother.
Most of the times I come here are at nighttime, so I'm not really used to like the sunlight on me. Get the box, running from the cops, and we hit the end block. Time is ticking, and I ain't even wanna talk down on my ass. I'm like, go and hit the clock.
You see how it just makes it sound fuller, like the words sound clear. I'm still gonna lower that shit down too.
Music is therapeutic because it helps me express stuff that I feel as if I can't express with somebody just confidentially, So I could express stuff that I'm going through. I wasn't allowed to have a pencil in there, but I actually stole from school one time because the sweaters in there had a hole. So I managed to find the hole through like the bottom part of it. And I just stole the pencil, and I'll be in there with pieces of paper, and I'll be trying to write something. As of the time, I had tried to write music, but I never really got to write it or produce it.
Get the box, running from the cops and we hit the end block. Time is ticking and I ain't even wanna talk. Down on my ass, I might go and hit this flock. Damn, Willow said that bitch got the stove. If you ain't talking though, bitch, stop hitting on my phone. Said it with me times was tough, I was stuck on my own. You sipping on the deuce, I'm pulling up the smoke. Free on my boys cause they eating sloppy Joe. Where was you at when I ain't had no dough? You, I can't cover hoe. Headed to the top, knock you down like domino. Running out of dough, so bitch, I gotta go.
Shout out Miss Emily real quick for being one of the best people I know. First memory with Miss Emily was when I got released from juvenile hall, and she started helping me with my English work. She's one of the kindest persons I met though, and I really love her from my heart.
They're sponsored by COVID-19.
Songs are like tattoos, you know I. Songs are like tattoos, you know I've been to see before. Held an enemy, or let me still away.
Oh my goodness!
Hey!
What is that?
Oh, my mask? Oh, it's I've been going through my underwear drawer, like it's old underwear, but it's clean and fresh. And I thought, oh, I don't wear this anymore, but it's really cute. I like this underwear. I just cut it and made a mask. It's black and white. It's got cute little, I wouldn't wear it out in public, but I would wear it, around the house. It covers
Let me
face
zoom
and my
in.
nose. Not like I'm cutting a hole in it, like some stupid people are wearing a maxi-pad on my face. Just underwear. Right.
So me and my friend Marie have been eating really healthy. This is a juice from Creations. They're a juicery cafe. And this is my lunch. This is Marie's juice.
Should I start?
It's gonna be
Marker take 2. So during this pandemic, I've been trying to do creative things to keep myself sane in isolation. I've been making zines. Zines are basically self-publicated graphic art. It could be poems, it could be works, quotes. And I've been making a couple things. This is a Mighty Boosh BBC show that I really like. It's a bunch of different characters, funny little guys. And then I've been making Hello Kitty zines of all these stories, basically. This one is, do you remember? I sometimes dream that I'm stuck with my family in my house during this pandemic, and then I wake up and remember I murdered them all. Funny. And then it's just jokes. And then this is kind of like on all the back of them. I just have my signature look.
I've been coping with the coronavirus by reading a lot. It helps with the isolation. These are all very good books that I have been reading. I like to read several books at one time because I process information differently. So I'll read this book, and once I get to a point, I'll pick up another book. This is The Scapegoat Complex. These are all really good books and helping to provide insight into psychology, feminism, and just other people's lives. And I've also been coping with my anxiety that's been heightened since the coronavirus by smoking. These are indica and hybrid strains. I've gotten these online and I've gotten these from the dispensary. This really helps with my anxiety and insomnia at times. And all of this has really been helpful with coping with everything.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Dwayne Radden Jr., and I'm proud to share with you my documentary entitled Life as We Know It Now. This 4.5-minute short doc is about 3 black men who find a way to adjust during this COVID-19 pandemic while also understanding the importance of staying positive through it all. I hope you all enjoy this film, and God bless.
But life goes on, and this world keeps on turning.
My name is Dwayne Benjamin. I'm from San Bernardino, California. I lived here all my life, you know what I mean? I'm a father of 4, divorced, just trying to make it.
Over the last couple months, man, you've been through a lot of stuff, a lot of things that have impacted your life overall. What do you say to people that's, going through similar situations?
Man, over the last couple months, I've lost some very dear people to me. One, namely my mother. It really impacted me real bad, you know what I mean? And then after that, shortly after that, all this COVID virus stuff started popping up, and all these people was getting sick and dying and stuff. And actually, it's kind of hard to kind of stay optimistic, but you got to, you got to, just take the necessary precautions. Try to keep your hands clean, don't touch your face, wear your mask and stuff, and kind of isolate yourself as much as you possibly can. I know it's kind of impossible, but and try not to pass on nothing or catch nothing at the same time.
He said everything talks to me. He said I'm on my phone. Most people, man.
Hey, what's up, y'all? Ronald Chisholm, aka Talk Show The Visionary. Talk Show represents having a way with words. You know what I'm saying? I'm a musician and a wordsmith. And me being Ronald, I'm just an individual that's in a loving life, you feel me? Enjoying my daughter and, staying woke to things that's going on, enjoying life. I'm completely blind. I've been blind for 10 years now.
Now with the circumstances with COVID-19 and all the things that's happening in society, man, how has this thing impacted you personally, whether work-wise or personal with your family or being able to see people?
Me being visually impaired, some places I do need help. I am independent, I travel real well, but some places are a little more difficult than others, are more crowded, and the security and people were more available than before all this stuff started happening. Now, of course, the train stations were real empty because of all the orders of staying in the house and people being scared and not traveling as much, but it changed the layout of what I was used to. Working at the hospital, the time I go in, they changed the door to the ER. So everybody has to go in the ER. They're asking you questions about, have you been outside the country, you got any symptoms, and then they put this thing around your wrist. So I get help going in, but coming out, it's a bear.
My name is Ricardo Darby. I'm 42 years old. I work at Best Western Plus.
Ricardo, how you feel about COVID?
Man, this COVID stuff is I mean, I take it serious. I mean, I work at a hotel, so I get a lot of international people coming and going. Just panic buying and stuff like that. And different things. I just put bars on my windows. You know what I'm saying? I purchased 40 pounds of rice. I've been getting a lot of alcohol or a lot of bleach products. You know, I just did the things that a father would have to do in order to protect his family. You know what I'm saying?
The bars on the window, what was the motive behind that? Can you give us a rundown on that?
Well, it being harder to find jobs and being actually unemployed because of this virus, I was worried about what they were going to do.
What is the best advice you can give a father or a man in this pandemic right now, just how to stay positive, and then just advice in life in general?
I would honestly say take advantage of this time that you have with your family. Don't take this life for granted. Don't take it lightly.
And I would say is family and togetherness, like that is really important, to be connected. You know what I'm saying? And being cautious, not taking things too lightly either, not thinking that things can't never happen to you. You know what I'm saying? So those are the things briefly that I would say.
So there you have our first 3 documentaries. The first one on This Is Able, about a young man who is at the crossroads of his life, very much talking about stories and narratives of police harassment, and seeing from an assets, strength-based perspective, his capacity to become better. And you saw at the very end of the documentary giving kudos to Emily Harris, who co-directed along with Max and Shafali. But Abel recognized Emily as an instrumental part of her life. And so this notion of mentorship, of being able to be recognized in terms of your dignity by just one person. And I think this documentary, did a really stellar job in regards to that. Our second documentary, Carissa, kind of wild and imaginative and succulent in terms of its color and its capacity to sort of show sort of holistic taking care of oneself through zines and pot and cannabis, and special types of masks, as well as healing bowls and books. And I thought it was just a really colorful way of these 2 women sort of expressing how they're adapting to isolation and to COVID-19 in terms of kind of experimenting and really utilizing sort of healing tools on their journey, but in a really colorful, sort of wild kind of way. And then our third documentary, Dwayne, who tells the story of these 3 men who share stories about the impact that COVID-19 has had. Dwayne, I think, has this wonderful sort of capacity to sort of take stock of the common man, especially the African American, a certain dignity and respect that he affords them. And I think it really comes out in his documentary, fathers sort of taking advantage of the moment to love and honor their children, to protect as a family, and doing the best they can during this most challenging and difficult of times. And so I really appreciated these stories, along with the music and kind of the subtlety of these men, one who is blind, attempting to make sense of the world among COVID-19. So I really want to thank Emily, Shafali, Max, and Carissa, and Dwayne for these first 3 documentaries. Once again, attempting to tell narratives and stories of the human condition as we attempt to adjust and adapt. So let's go on to our next 3 documentaries. And I hope you enjoy. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Haley. This documentary is focused on the Asian American. Hi, my name is Haley. This documentary is focused on the Asian American community and the emotions that they have been experiencing during the COVID-19 pandemic. This is especially important to me because I am Asian American, and also during this time of May, where it is Asian American Heritage Month, I really wanted to highlight what the Asian American community is feeling. So I hope you enjoy and that there's a lot to take away from this documentary.
Hi, I'm Jessica Liu. As you know, racism against Asians has had a long history in America. I hope that this film gives a glimpse into what they've been experiencing during the COVID-19 pandemic. Thank you for coming, and I hope you have enjoyed the films.
In the past, humans have been plagued with the H1N1 virus and its mutated forms, the seasonal flu virus and its mutated forms, HIV, AIDS, cholera, the bubonic plague, yellow fever, Ebola, Zika, etc. These diseases that caused more than thousands of deaths were never once so blatantly pinned on a certain race.
So the virus is pretty scary. I think I'm not alone when I say that everyone's has a lot of anxiety right now.
Initially, I thought when I first heard the news of like a new coronavirus brewing in China, I thought it was like, oh, this could be pretty serious because it's similar to the SARS and I've like throughout my life I've lived in Hong Kong for a bit every year, just like every summer I would relocate to Hong Kong basically and live there. And so like I was actually in Hong Kong around the time the SARS was breaking out, so I kind of remembered that this was pretty serious. But they actually contained it pretty well and didn't really come to America. But then this time this new coronavirus was spreading a lot and like wildfire too. So
first and foremost, it's something I feel a lot of us, as not just as Americans but people all over the world, never really imagined or prepared for. As you can see, it's affected many people around the world in their lives. Many have lost loved ones.
Well, as someone who's like in sports journalism, it's kind of like a very uncomfortable time for everyone, for athletes and anyone involved in sports media right now, because obviously sports have been canceled and we don't really know when it's going to come back. So that has definitely affected like my work schedule, type of content that I'm producing, but also opening up a lot of discussion on race, right? Like we had Trump saying that it was a Chinese virus when it came from China, but it almost put to blame that like all Chinese people caused this, and that's not the case.
And of course, one of the more troubling trends has to be the recent trend of racist attacks against Asian Americans, which has started long before this truly became a pandemic.
I feel really upset knowing that Donald Trump said that this was a Chinese virus. I feel like there is no reason that race has to be brought into this mess. And the fact that it originated in China has nothing to do with the virus itself.
The president has refused to accept responsibility for his actions, and his way of avoiding responsibility at first was blaming Asian Americans and Chinese Americans, and now that this issue has grown even more, now he's just totally said, it's not my responsibility.
There's always that like subconscious feeling that people are almost afraid just because you have an Asian face, but they don't really even know like who I am. And the most like ridiculous thing is that like I was born and raised in America. Like I don't feel that culturally connected to China, right? And like fundamentally I am American.
There are so many diseases that happen in different parts of the world. So should we blame those people in that country for this disease happening? No, I don't believe so. And the fact that this is a man who is supposed to be a leader and is supposed to help our country, that's what makes me even more irritated the most. I mean, we look up to, when we elect someone to run our country, it's someone we look up to because it's
Of course, Donald Trump is calling this the Chinese virus. It's nothing new. It's straight out of his playbook to blame another group and to target a certain ethnic group for a major issue. He's done it before with Latinos and Mexicans, and now he's doing it with Asians. And it's not out of the ordinary at this point in his administration, as he's done it countless times before. And of course, he's doing it for political reasons. It's not just to be a racist. It's to help, gain more favor with his base, who love the fact that they have the president embracing the racism that they feel, and continue to perpetuate the idea that, oh, this is the Chinese virus and we need to hate Asian people. And we already saw before Trump was even calling this the Chinese virus that people were completely avoiding Asian American businesses and starting to attack Asian Americans in the streets, filming them in public and ridiculing them.
I hate Asians. Look, he said get the
Why do you keep calling this the Chinese virus? There are reports of dozens of incidents of bias against Chinese Americans in this country. Your own aide, Secretary Azar, says he does not use this term. He says ethnicity does not cause the virus. Why do you keep using this? A lot of people say it's racist.
It's not racist at all, no, not at all. It comes from China.
what's sad is like when this whole thing dies down and it becomes better, I feel like everybody in the world are going to have such different views of Chinese people in general or Asians in general, such as like after this, will people now see Asians as a threat?
I think the biggest thing is that this is a test to see if not just like one ethnic group or one city or one country, but really a test to see if the whole world can work together to solve this problem. It's a time to act as a human race, to act as one world, and to really like to work together to help fight this invisible enemy, because if we don't do that and we keep pointing fingers, we're wasting our time, because at this point there's no reason to blame anyone because it's already gotten so bad.
I want it to be known that, as Asian Americans, we are not really much different than the rest of Americans. We're all Americans. We're not we're from the same country, and I don't think we should really discriminate against us. We don't all have the virus. We're probably equally likely to get exposed to the virus as the rest of Americans.
And I'm very, very proud to be Asian American.
I think that one of the things that my parents taught was just to be proud of who you are, and part of my identity is being Chinese American. It's not something that you can just delete. It's something that's ingrained in your DNA, and you have to accept it. It's not a matter of do you want to or do you not want to.
So it's unique being an Asian American in this time where it seems like our influence is really growing and people are looking at us more favorably, especially with people like Andrew Yang was running for president, and that was a huge accomplishment for Asian Americans politically.
Yeah, I'm pretty proud to be Asian American because it's pretty unique to have kind of both cultures intertwining with each other.
Just because I don't fluently speak or understand the language of either one of them doesn't mean I'm not damn proud to be an Asian American. I'm proud of my traditions, my culture, my beliefs, the food we cook, the values that come with being Asian American.
And I hope the world never forgets the great sacrifices that Chinese medical professionals like Dr. Li Wenliang have made, including laying down their lives to try and contain the virus from infecting other people.
Hi, my name is Stephanie Cifuentes, and I am proud to share my documentary entitled Why. This 4-minute video is about child abuse during COVID-19, and I just wanted to share a visualization of what children any age might be experiencing during these times, just by staying home. There's extra stress added on, and I just wanted to share what they might be experiencing during times like these. So I hope you enjoy it, and thank you.
I was finally being taken care of. I had an escape. I enjoyed school, playing with friends, and feeling the sun. I had an escape from being home. I don't know how I'll get through this. I was able to get away from the hitting. I was eating at school. This virus took away my security. I'm forced to stay home. Why does my mom and dad hit me? Why don't they like me? Did I do something wrong? I'm home all the time. Who will take care of me now? Who can I talk to? I'm stuck in a place where no one cares for me. I'm starting to get bruises. Luckily, no one will see them. I'm getting skinny. Luckily, no one will see me. I can't breathe now. What's happening? They keep hitting me. Why won't they stop? I look in the mirror. I can't recognize myself. Why don't they love me? What did I do so wrong? I'm in pain. Who will rescue me before it's too late?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Shelley Proctor, and I'm very excited to be sharing my documentary with you all called Monarching Transformation. It's a journey through social isolation that I took, and I'll be sharing what I've overcame and how I did it, and I hope to inspire you guys, and I hope that you enjoy it. Thank you.
So there you have documentaries number 4, 5, and 6, and a real pleasure to see all 3 of them. The first one by Haley and Jessica, really more of an investigatory sort of documentary, attempting to critique President Trump in regards to statements that he has made, and many people sort of following sort of along the lines of his statements. The Chinese immigrant community as well as the Chinese American community, there's been a long history of prejudice and racism. And here both of these filmmakers attempt to sort of capture that. You notice sort of the voices that come in and out of Chinese Americans talking about their experiences as well as their thoughts and reflections about COVID-19 and sort of the specific Chinese virus. And the landscape is Chinatown, isolated, lonely, and really sort of giving us a sense of what that isolation looks like in a very popular part of Los Angeles. And at the very end, talking in a very strength-based way about the beauty and the dignity of the Chinese American community and the contributions that they have made, are making, and will continue to make in our country. In the 5th documentary, the second in this portion, we have our student Stephanie Cifuentes really engage in an act of sort of directing a reenactment of a beautiful young girl from sort of innocence to trauma. And does it so well in terms of the way she dances in the backyard. She plays the small guitar. And then you begin to see sort of this change occur as a result of the traumas of being sort of within her home, a home in which there is a lot of abuse. And you see that transformation from innocence to trauma. And you see the marks on her face, the marks on her body, that scene in which she's in her hoodie. Just really remarkable in terms of the way it was created. And then sort of giving us sort of pause to reflect, wait a minute, you know, that this time of isolation, those buffers that are usually there in terms of schools are not there anymore. And so many times children have to fend for themselves, and Stephanie providing for us sort of, here are the things that you can do in terms of calling it out. And this was really a remarkable sort of reenactment, and the young actress really did a formidable job in that. And in this final documentary, Shelley sort of turns the camera on herself and begins to sort of explore this internal transformation by way of using the metaphor of a butterfly. I know that you know, this love that Shelley has for hiking. One of her assignments in the class was her out looking out into the valley. So she's been very connected with sort of the outdoors, and here you see sort of her turning the camera back on herself and using that butterfly as a way of talking, you know, COVID-19, yeah, there's something obviously tragic about this, and what Shelley is attempting to do is sort of recognize that there are also possibilities of sort of that sense of solitude and that sense of silence, almost like a monk. And I think Shelley does a really wonderful job in terms of capturing that. So really want to give a lot of thanks to Haley and Jessica, Stephanie and Shelley for documentaries number 4, 5, and 6. I want to recognize before we sort of move forward, I had mentioned in the beginning that there were 3 students whose documentary was not able to be captured. I'll mention one and then I'll mention the other 2 just a little bit later. Robert Bohan, he was actually one of the first to turn in his documentary, and just for whatever reason, we were having a very difficult time putting it into timeline here. But he explores what that means to be an extrovert in sort of an introvert sort of world in which you are now sort of looking at yourself. And, you know, Rob is a young man who is very much an extrovert, loves to do things, loves to sort of enjoy parties and having a good time. And sort of being isolated was a real challenge for him, and sort of explaining sort of what's going on in his life during this particular time, and him giving us the message of taking advantage of this particular moment, that perhaps an extrovert can learn a lot about sort of those times of being alone, and he himself is a hiker as well. So I just wanted to make mention first of Rob, and then I'll make mention of the other two. So let's continue our 16th annual USC School of Social Work Film Festival now.
Hi, good evening. My name is Abby Urias, and I'm excited to share with you my documentary titled A to Z, Q is for Quarantine. This documentary is 4.5 minutes long, and it's a slice of life showcasing my own experience in dating during COVID-19. I hope you enjoy the movie, and enjoy. Bye!
Jellyfish, come on. Okay, fine. What is it? What's another one? What's the other one? Jellyfish, dolphin.
Turkey!
The fact that you know all those is sad, but I mean, it's fantastic. It's great. It's the best thing. Yeah, no, for sure. We definitely do it. He was nerd! Yeah. Yeah, here she goes crying. That's what I like about it. You cry all the time. Okay. I can't really throw it back. He said it's like stiff and wet.
I can't. I don't know if he's throwing it back, but it feels like a horse.
Yeah, I don't know. Ridiculous.
No!
Why are you doing that? No, it's gonna do that thing. No!
Did it break it?
Yeah, it broke it.
Oh no!
Great. Spent all the time just sharpening this pencil. Oh, is that good?
No! Did you break it?
Oh, that's like real bad. How did I even do that?
You know my favorite move? When you pretend to be like a floaty thing. in the car wash.
Please don't tell me you do that in real life.
Yeah, I do.
No.
Yeah.
Alright, well, it's been real. The door's over there. There's my exit. Alright.
That's fishy. Oh.
You just passed, but you're doing it. Okay. Shit.
Rollerblade?
Yeah. That's it. Bye.
Hello everyone, I'm Willis Johnson, a Master's of Social Work student from the University of Southern California. What I will be doing today is walking around Raleigh, North Carolina, downtown Raleigh, North Carolina to be more specific. Currently there is a protest and a counter protest going on about the reopening of North Carolina. What I will be doing is having interviews and gathering information from different individuals as to the necessity of opening up North Carolina. My intentions are to be completely and totally unbiased, just wanting to get information from the people and how they're feeling about COVID-19 and the various effects that it is having on their lives.
My name is Dennis Burgard, and I live in Jacksonville, North Carolina. Here for 6 weeks now. I started protesting literally by myself or on that corner over there. I had a sign with me, and I came here mostly for business people. Small business people in particular have been shut down during this whole concern about COVID-19 spreading, and I've noticed the people it affects the most are what I'd call people who are not professionals. So people who don't have degrees have been shut down. Accountants are still working, attorneys are still working, all professional people are still working, but middle class people who don't have degrees like barbers, massage therapists, nail techs, just on and on and on, restaurant owners, bar owners have all been shut down. And those are all our small business owners. So my number one concern has been for them. I'm a small business owner myself. I'm very fortunate financially. I'm in a very good position. So it's not affecting me, but I've been willing to drive 2 hours literally every week in order to come up here and be part of a protest to let Governor Cooper know that this is having real impacts on people who are now starting to lose their homes, starting to lose their cars, and are getting ready to become basically impoverished. I'd say what I've learned due to COVID-19, and I kind of wish I didn't, is how easily people can be manipulated by fear. That fear will get them to do things that they've never done before. I'm 56 years old. I've never seen this in my life. We've had all kinds of emergencies during my lifetime, and I've never seen a whole entire nation and really a whole world react in fear to the point that they give up their freedom, they give up their liberty, they give up their rights, and not only do they give up their own, but they're more than willing to watch as other people's rights are given up as well. So their own fear isn't enough. They now want to control other people because of that same fear. That's probably the most scary thing for me as an American. We have a U.S. Constitution. I believe that Constitution was really designed for these exact situations so that people can know that they'll be free. But when your government is responding like this and there's no opposition to it, that means it's supported by more than half the country, and that worries me. For me, the changes we should implement, I'm a let freedom ring kind of guy. And in my opinion, people understand the risks, and I believe that freedom is going to help all of us get through this the best we can. For those folks who are fearful, and I totally get that, if you've got any kind of issues that you believe could be dangerous to you, you should be completely free to avoid people, stay home, do what you need to do. For the people who want to venture out, they will determine the places they feel safe in. So if you're a business owner and you don't provide a safe environment, people probably are not going to visit you and you'll go out of business. So freedom will allow people to determine what they want and what they won't want on both ends. If I'm a customer, I can choose between 5 restaurants. I'm going to probably choose the one that seems the safest to me, and either that business will respond or I'll go out of business. So in my opinion, freedom is always the best answer in each and every situation, and always has been.
My name is Wendy. I'm a registered nurse. What brought me out to the protest is that I don't believe that this is the way to deal with a virus. I believe in the beginning we needed to see what was happening with this virus and to be prepared. We did that. We see that we can handle it now, and I believe that now we need to get out there and build an immune system and build immunity against this, and not sit and hide in our homes and wait for a vaccine, but to build our own immune systems so that we're prepared, because I believe everyone will come in contact with this virus. Something I have learned due to COVID-19, well, that's interesting. I have learned that people you thought had thought processes that were different from what the media tells them to believe sometimes don't, and that they're willing to just follow whatever they're told, even if you raise them and think that they are filmmakers. Honestly, I don't think we should implement any changes. I think we should go back to life the way it was. I think in the future we need to realize that there's going to be many viruses that are going to come down the pike, and that we're going to come in contact with them, and that we should build, if anything, build your immune system. Get your vitamins in, get exercise, lose weight. If you have diabetes, deal with that. Get yourself in the best possible health you can, and you should be fine.
After attending the protest, I was able to gather some information and feelings and opinions about individuals who were for the reopening of North Carolina. However, there wasn't a counter protest going on, so I wasn't able to get the opinion and viewpoint of individuals who were opposed. However, as I stated previously, I just wanted to remain completely and totally unbiased and just allow individuals to express their individual feelings. In my opinion, things that I have learned from COVID-19 is the necessity to be able to adapt to changes and to be able to be flexible to many changes. As we all know, this was completely unseen, and we've never experienced something like this before. And it's just very important to be able to be flexible when situations like this happen. Things that I think that we should implement due to COVID-19 is just the ability to be more adaptable and to be more flexible if something like this ever happens again. And this may be in your home, this may be in your work environment, just knowing how to accept changes and accept things that may happen that we haven't necessarily seen before, and learning how to act accordingly to that. I think that we should move forward from COVID-19, take all precautions necessary as far as practicing social distancing, making sure that you're washing your hands, making sure that you're staying safe and as sanitary as possible. And I hope everyone is doing well and all families are safe and taking the necessary precautions. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Flora Romero, and I'm proud to share my film entitled Trying. This 4.5-minute short doc is about the 3 continuous responses to COVID-19 I feel like our society has been experiencing. In spending so much time at home, I realized a lot of what I missed were the small things that we tend to take for granted. I hope this reminds you to practice gratitude because there's a lot to be thankful for. Thank you and enjoy the film.
And there you have documentaries 7, 8, and 9. Very different from each other, of course. Abby talks about a personal story in terms of online dating during this sort of COVID-19 and meeting Zach. And in many ways, sort of we see sort of a cinema verite happen here in front of us, in which you see both of them sort of playing with each other and having a good time and sort of moving the body and really beginning to give us a sort of a sense of what that's like to be dating during this sort of pandemic, and what are some of the rules associated with that, and what are some of the things that you do and that you don't do. And so it was really sort of a wonderful sort of a fly on the wall, getting a sense of who Abby is, along with Zach, and sort of playing with each other and off each other. So this very sort of autobiographical piece of a documentary it comes from Abby. Our next documentary from Willis, who in North Carolina sort of goes to a protest to capture the voices of those who see freedom and economic participation as a value that consider more important than perhaps the value of safety and health. And in particular, sort of the interview of the nurse who talks about sort of building up your immune system and sort of pulling yourself up by your bootstraps. And this comes from a nurse, interestingly enough. Sort of, this is obviously my opinion, sort of my perspective. And Willis at the very end sort of giving us a sense of things that we need to do, how we need to adapt and to adjust to the changing nature and be ready for the next pandemic if it ever comes around. And so Willis sort of turns the camera on himself, sort of providing, if you will, certain wisdom to how we should sort of respond to COVID-19. And then Flor gives us sort of a very sort of intimate story, sort of the challenges that have gone her way in terms of in isolation and living with just those closest to you. But what are we learning and what are we leaning upon, you know? And there were some really beautiful parts of this documentary, sort of, you know, turning on the phone and seeing her friends there from different parts of the country, connecting with one another, attempting to be intimate and really get a sense of each other's life. And you had families waving, and you had friends waving, and then sort of that final sort of phone where you have this woman really touching her stomach as she's pregnant. And there was a certain beauty about that, but there was also a certain sense of sadness. And then in the final piece, we see Flor crossing out events. Obviously, graduation, which was supposed to take place this Friday, and it still is, but online, and having to sort of cancel her trip to France. You know, her 24th birthday is just not going to be the same as it was before, and you see that final shot of her taking off the mask and this sort of breath, you know, that she's trying the best that she can. And I think that last scene really spoke to all of us who are trying the best we can and sort of having to sort of lay back just a little bit and sort of take a rest for the weary during this time. So I want to thank Abby, Willis, and Flor for these 3 short documentaries, very different from one another and telling different messages. So let's continue with our film festival, and let's go ahead and get started.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Natalie Azurdia, and I am sharing my documentary entitled Every Loss Matters. This 5-minute short doc is about current graduate students who explain the many forms of grief and loss and how this current COVID pandemic is affecting them personally and what they are currently grieving. I hope you enjoy it.
I've learned so much about grief and loss since I started grad school. I think a lot of times when people think about grief and loss, they think of a physical loss, such as the loss of a loved one. But grief and loss goes so much deeper than that. There's so many losses that we grieve on a day-to-day basis, and those are more of emotional losses. Like, for example, there could be a student who, maybe physically still has their parents in the home with them, but one of them's living with depression, for example. And so even though they're in that physical space with them and they haven't physically lost them, emotionally that parent has become distant, and for them that's a loss.
Grief and loss within the context of the social work program, we're taught that it comes in different levels. So yes, grief and loss can be of a loved one because they passed, but it can also be the loss of a relationship, whether that be romantic, a partner, friendship, family ties, moving from homes within the foster care system. We have children who are grieving the loss of their parents being physically removed from their home or being constantly placed elsewhere, losing their belongings, grieving that.
Personally, it started off, this kind of blew up very quickly. When I first heard about it, I'm like, okay, it's horrible news, and I didn't really know much of it, and then I feel like kind of just hit everyone right away. And getting emails from my university saying we might have to go online, but we don't know. It was kind of like a bittersweet, everyone's like, cool, online, we don't have to waste gas or things like that. But when it actually came down to it, it's very hard and it's very challenging to do everything online. And then on top of that, loss of employment, it just adds another factor to my stressor overall. So it's just been very hard and challenging to overcome. But personally, I think it's more of an acceptance I had to deal with and ways to overcome these feelings.
Grief and loss for me has really looked like kind of just the loss of everything I was planning for my future. I was expecting to have graduation and that got canceled. I think the false sense of security I had of, you graduate and then you're gonna get a job, right? And now there's no jobs. I had vacations planned and I had to cancel those. So I think having everything happen at once and unexpectedly was just a really hard hit for me. And that was something I really had to grieve.
Something positive that has come out of this is, I think, the experience of telehealth. Through a school district, I went through a process of being in a meeting and trying to figure out the protocols and what to do, and being that almost first responder in terms of mental health within a school district, and then finally being able to reach out to students and assessing for their needs and what was going on. I think that was an experience I wouldn't have had otherwise. I think also it gave me time to reflect on my accomplishments and how far I've come and all my struggles.
So I just think it's a huge time for reflection on being grateful of the times that we do get to spend times with our loved ones or do fun things. It completely is so diverse in how it's affecting people, from students to essential workers, from graduate students, undergrad. A lot of people I know are missing their graduations, their weddings, they're giving birth in such a time like this. And I think it's important to be just really optimistic and caring and being empathetic on how everyone experiences it, because it might not be the same for you. But it's definitely something that we're going to grow from and hopefully just stay strong together.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Deidre Belafonte, and tonight I have the pleasure of showcasing my first film called Press Play. Press Play is a film that recognizes that feeling of time stopping, but the days are still going, and it's frustrating. But at the end of the day, we all have to find this place to maintain stability and insanity. So as you engage in this film, I ask you to find your happy place and sit back and watch. I thank you. Enjoy.
We have it totally under control. It's one person coming in from China.
Very little problem in this country at this moment. 5.
It's like around 12. The flu in our country kills from 25,000 people.
Nobody to coronavirus in the United States. Doesn't mean we won't.
Fortunately, one person passed away overnight. In terms of deaths, I don't know what the count is today. Is it 11?
Look, right now, I guess we're at 26 deaths. We're looking at 8,000 deaths.
Taking early, intense action, we have seen dramatically fewer cases of the virus in the United States than are now present in Europe. You're talking about 2.2 million deaths. If we final number will be, which could be 60, could be 70, could be 75, could be 55. And I think right now we're heading at probably around 60, maybe 65,000. We're going toward 50 or 60,000 people.
We're probably heading to 60,000, 70,000.
So if we lose 65,000 people,
hopefully we're going to come in below that 100,000 lives lost.
We're going to lose.
Has brought me joy during this pandemic, because honestly, for the first 2 weeks of this pandemic, I was completely depressed. Everything was changed, so I didn't know what to do with myself. And I one day decided to get up and started to think about multiple ways of, making money. And I discovered my passion for scent.
Sing it, mommy. Yeah. I'm doing my best to make it.
My spiritual awareness, that keeps me happy. It keeps me encouraged because I don't feel panic and anxiety like some people do, because there is relationship with the Creator. So that's my comfort, that's my solace. 2, I would have to say my family. My family means so much to me. So every day, I look forward to seeing them smile, seeing them happy. Yeah.
I mean, it's imperative that you stay happy. Find things that bring you joy in this time, because
I think it's important that we continue to live our lives as best as possible, because you'll slip into a downward spiral of depression, anxiety, and stress, and that's all not good.
Real talk, this is bleak, depressing times right now. A lot of uncertainty, a lot of anxiousness, a lot of just not knowing what your next step will be.
And it'll just go into a snowball effect of depression. Unfortunately, depression is a real life situation, and so
you need to have something that makes you happy, just to keep your spirits up and just keep you afloat.
And so when you see somebody like that, for me, my thing is to encourage them, pray for them, try to pull them up, and tell them that everything is going to be all right.
Hi,
my name is Jocelyn Penfilo, and I am proud to present my documentary film called Black and Brown Workers Speak Out. This documentary is a 5-minute video on how resilient and how graceful these workers are in fighting against COVID-19.
I'm considered a medical assistant at one of a community-based clinic that offers both primary care and reproductive healthcare services. And pretty much I do a lot of assisting the doctors. I do a lot of translating in Spanish because there's a high Spanish-speaking population that use the services at the clinic where I work. Before the stay-at-home order and the whole COVID situation, we were seeing a lot of patients. We were seeing over 800 patients a month, and we were putting in a lot of extensive overtime. The stay-at-home order, our schedule has dramatically decreased. We are seeing less patients in person, and there has also been a shift in the hours that our clinic is open. We have temporarily closed Saturday. The main reason for that is because since we're putting ourselves as the providers of the clinic at risk, there's a high chance or possibility that one of us could have gotten sick. So we have to have enough people as backup to be able to cover those people that get sick. Personal experiences as a frontline worker, being in the healthcare industry and still having to go to work, I have different point of views. For one point, it makes me a little bit grateful that I'm still able to go to work and provide income, especially because my legal spouse is currently unemployed, and so there's only income coming from one end. So part of me makes me grateful that I'm still able to go to work and provide income. Other part of me, however, is a little scary because I am putting myself at risk. I'm putting the people I live with at risk because I have to go out and then go to work, have contact with people. So part of it has been very scary.
My name is Walter X. I grew up in the western part of Berkeley. I'm a employee, full-time employee, part-time employee, working 2 jobs. I have 2 kids. Both are, one is a 7th grader, one is in TK. Right now, with the current state that we're in, they're both out of school right now. So where I work is a retail warehouse. From the regular 8,000 people daily basis, I would say now that number has doubled. But due to shorter store hours, the lines are long, crazy. You might be in line for about 2 hours before you actually even get in the store. I feel like every day I wake up and I go out the door, I'm putting my life at risk or myself at risk, just being an African American person in society. I just feel like we just targeted. You feel me? The corona really just, the coronavirus or COVID-19, like I said, I really don't feel a change as far as what I'm seeing. I just see a change, but me personally, I don't feel the change in what's going on. I see it, but I don't actually feel it, because I'm still able to get up, go provide a service. But do I feel like, am I getting the right pay for the service that I'm providing? No. Do I feel like I'm being treated as I need to be hazmat, basically protected? Do I feel like I'm getting that same service of being able to protect myself? No.
I was not a person that was eligible to receive a stimulus check. I'm married to a person who my husband is considered not a legal resident of the United States. So unfortunately, that makes him and myself ineligible to receive a stimulus check.
Do you want me to be blatant honest? That shit is bullshit. You can't live. An average family of one child can't live off of 1,700 for. I'm just gonna throw a number out there. 4 months. 1,700. Like living in the Bay Area, housing is that a month plus.
Good evening. My name is Diana Mata, and I am proud to share my documentary, Community Spreading Love. This short documentary is about life changing due to COVID-19 and how communities chose to respond in a time of fear. Although we remained in isolation, the support and love of community is seen in many different forms. I hope you enjoy.
Were we moving too fast to even notice? By the time we noticed it, it was in every news headline.
Our following major developing news is the first possible U.S. case of community spread of the coronavirus.
Community spread of person to person.
The virus is out there in the community. We continue to follow the economic fallout as well. Tonight, the Dow falling nearly 1,200 points.
COVID-19 can be characterized as a pandemic.
And life as we knew it was about to change. Seen my city so quiet and empty, but something else was spreading like I have never seen before. And the messages, they were everywhere. People were supporting their community. And businesses and artists were getting creative. At night, the city lights up blue in tribute to workers on the front line. And at 8 p.m., the quiet city becomes alive with the sounds of cheers from the balconies of downtown buildings. Something in me changed. I started listening, and now I can hear the birds chirping a little louder. I wonder what will happen when it's time to take off the mask. Will we ever be the same? What will you remember the most? I will never forget what I saw. Community spreading love.
And there you have documentaries 10, 11, 12, and 13. Really just so wonderful sort of depictions, but in different sorts of ways, where our student Natalie begins to sort of explore what is that sort of perspective of the student, the graduate student in social work and in psychology, and having to sort of deal with sort of the changing nature of what it means to be a student, and really talking about grief and loss in different sorts of ways. In other words, that grief is not just the loss of someone, but it's also the loss of rituals and the loss of sort of normality and the toll that it takes on students in particular, having to sort of deal with that. And yet also finding a sense of balance that as a result of COVID-19, we've also been able to sort of look at telehealth as a different alternative to how social work is practiced, as social work has had to adjust to that. So I thought it was just a really remarkable sort of way of hearing the narratives and the stories of students who sometimes their stories tend to be dismissed. And yet here we hear very specifically how they've been impacted, and that a lot of us are suffering grief, and they name it and they call it out. Our next one is Deidre, Press Play, in which sort of as a philosopher is challenging us to understand happiness and sort of the responsibility that we have of being happy. Not many people see it that way, but I think Deidre as a filmmaker sort of begins to look at, we have a responsibility towards others to be happy because it's infectious. There's something remarkable about having a partner or a family that's joyful about life. And so really looking at from the lens of the African American woman, one who makes candles and scents, and then we have this sort of beautiful sort of portrayal of I believe it's her grandmother, I could be wrong, singing this beautiful gospel song and being happy, choosing to be happy, and really hearing the voices of all these different women. And so we make the choice to press play, to play amid this really tragic time, that we don't lose our sense of childlikeness and our sense of innocence, and the ability to sing and to dance and to create. And I think Deidre really did a wonderful job in regard to that. Jocelyn, documentary number 12, Black and Brown, really sort of opening up the narratives and the stories of our minority communities and how they have been impacted as a result of COVID-19. And you see sort of the disparities in terms of those who are infected and those who die, really critiquing, if you will, the stimulus check that many received, and that lasting, a couple of days, that for those who are unemployed for longer than a month, 2, 3, longer than that, a stimulus check really, according to one of the characters there, is a joke, and was very critical of that. And so in many ways, this is Jocelyn's sort of critique of sort of this laissez-faire sort of capitalism, where money is given to sort of large corporations, and yet when it comes to the common man, the common person, it's sort of given out almost to sort of maybe placate and to say, yeah, we're doing something for you. And here Jocelyn is really sort of speaking the contrary to that. And then our final documentary was with Diana. And here you have a documentary about sort of community spreading love. And so you see sort of through her soft voice, and you see these remarkable sort of images of isolation, really wonderful cinematography in this particular piece. And there's a certain sense of it getting you down, and all of us know what that experience is like, of sort of being isolated, sort of on the freeway and on the streets. And then she begins to sort of change the narrative and really talks about all these images, in particular, murals, what's written with colored chalk on sidewalks, and people beginning to sort of create these messages of hope, create these messages of love, attempting to really remind us that, wait a minute, you know, we are a human people, we are social animals, and we connect with each other through this relational quality of attachment and bonding. And in this case, Diana didn't want us to lose that. And then at the very end, with her at the mask and sort of the camera sort of zooming out and seeing downtown Los Angeles, she's asking, what will that be like when we take our mask off? Will we return to the sense of community, of hope? And so she's asking a question that I think is important in these times. So those are our 13 documentaries. As I mentioned, there was supposed to be 16, and I mentioned Robert and his documentary on extrovert introvert world. I also want to make mention of 2 other students. Rayanne, who created a documentary entitled Stillness, that sort of frames itself around this young woman who practices yoga, and really talking about sort of finding that sense of groundedness and balance. The beaches are closed, the cities are closed, and yet people are attempting to connect with each other in one way, shape, or form. But what Rayanne does is captures it through the body, in the way this woman who practices yoga does so beautifully and does it so well, and really reminding us of finding that sense of balance, of finding that sense of stillness amid sort of this isolation. And so she's talking about sort of the benefits that you know, this stay-at-home order can have, and that's grounding ourselves into a deeper spirituality, a deeper sense of who we are. So I wanted to make mention of Rayanne's documentary, Stillness. And then the final documentary that I want to make mention of is Carol. Once again, for whatever reason, unable to sort of download it. And it's called Crown, and it's a documentary regarding the crown of the African American woman, which is her hair. And in such beautiful, sort of funny kind of way, she tells these stories of these different women who, you know, unable to find a hairdresser, unable to find an African American who specializes in African American hair, really sort of hearing the conversations and narratives of during this COVID-19 of how an African American woman is taking care of her hair, sometimes challenging, sometimes funny, but the hair is the crown of an African American woman, and I thought Carol did it so well. And so I definitely want a way to be able to have all of you be able to watch these documentaries, and I will find a way of doing that, but I just really wanted to make mention of those 3. So there you have it. I really want to thank you for joining online and sort of being present to our first sort of online virtual film festival. To me, I take great joy and take great pride in my students and the work that they've done It was a real disappointment. It was a real shock when I had to cancel production. But they came through, and in many ways, perhaps the universe provided. There was a greater blessing in regards to this. So with that, many blessings. Thank you so much for coming to our film festival. And I wish you all the very, very best to our graduating students and to those who came to support our students. Take care and goodbye, everybody.